Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted that you could be with us this morning. I'm Jane O'Leary, I'm the Strategic Advisor for Education for ISG Construction. We're delighted that this morning we've got a fantastic range of panellists here with you. And what we want to do is to tell you about some of the career opportunities and the various routes that there are into the construction industry. The Open Doors Week is a great way of finding out about what happens behind our construction hoardings, and hopefully through the session this morning you'll discover it's definitely about more than just a building. I'm delighted to have team members from ISG and our supply chain here with us. So we've got Sharnie, Katie, Magda and Simon from ISG and Tim from our supply chain. What we're going to do is we're going to have a set of questions that I'm going to run through with each of the panellists, and then at the end we're going to have a Q&A session. If you have any questions that you think about as we go through the session, please post them on the live Q&A section, and then we'll be able to collect those as we go, and I'll pick those questions up at the end to ask our panellists. If you think they're for any one panellist, you can pop their name alongside the question when you post the question on there. So without further ado, we will get in and start to meet our panellists that we've got with us today. So I'm going to ask them each to just explain briefly what their roles and responsibilities are and what they really enjoy about their job that they do in construction. So I'd like to start with you, Sharnie. If you could just give us a bit of a description about yourself, please.
Morning. Yeah, so as a senior bid writer, I see each project in its infancy. I liaise with technical specialists within the business to identify solutions to achieve a client's vision. We prepare responses to a series of questions asked by the client, telling the story of how our solution and how ISG can confidently deliver their new building. I love the challenge of the role. It offers lots of different opportunities. Each project is very different, so lots of learning and research to be done. The most exciting part is winning the work and seeing the project through onto site. It's really fulfilling to see that building come to life and be handed over to the client.
That's great, thank you, Sharnie. If I could come over to you, Katie, and ask the same question to you.
Hi everybody, my name is Katie Dennis. I'm a 4th year quantity surveying apprentice. I came to ISG straight from 6th form, so come to ISG as my first time in the construction industry. I've been enjoying it quite a lot actually. I've just finished up with my rotations around the business, so it's in the apprenticeship scheme. We rotate in from like quantity surveying, construction management, technical services, work winning. So yeah, I've literally just got out of that this week. My favourite part so far has been just meeting so many different people in the business. A lot of the times people might get stuck just on one construction site and that's all they know, especially coming straight from school. But I've had the opportunity to been able to make contacts throughout the whole business. If I ever need any help, then I've always got somebody to go to. So yeah, I think that's my favourite part, as well as actually being on site and, like Sharnie said, just seeing the project go from start to end. So yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you, Katie. If I can come to you, Magda, and ask you the same question.
Hello everyone, my name is Magda Miazga and I'm a construction manager working for ISG for past 4 years. My job as a construction manager involves overseeing subcontractor works and managing health and safety on site, quality, as well as clients' expectations. It does involve a lot of walking as well, and what I like the most about working on site is probably that bit as well. So it's a bit of active role, but also you have to do paperwork, so you get a chance to actually take have a seat, make yourself a cup of tea, do all the paperwork. Yeah, and every single day is completely different, so you never get bored on site.
That's great, thank you, Magda. And if I could come over to you, Tim, now as part of our supply chain.
Thanks, Jane. Morning, everybody. My name's Tim Coll. I'm slightly different to the rest of the guys on the panel. I effectively am a subcontractor to ISG. My role is a director for a specialist joinery company called Tailor Made Joinery. Responsibilities really include, overseeing all site operations, ensuring that we're delivering projects safely to a very high standard, and then with time and to meet the expectations of ISG and the end users. Probably quite similar answers to those before me. It's what I enjoy the most is working with people, getting to be in lots of different places, the opportunities to move around and see different things. It's not the same office every day, which I quite enjoy. And it's got perks as well. Working in a high-rise building means you don't need to have a gym membership because there's lots of stairs that you can make use of in the morning. So yeah, I guess that's sort of my intro.
Great. Thank you very much, Tim. And if I could pass over to you, Simon, please.
Thank you, Jane. And hi all, I'm Simon Spink, Head of Visualisation for ISG. Lead an in-house team of 5 visualisers, and we make images, animations and real-time content for winning work and supporting projects. Could be build sequences, internal fly-throughs and anything in between. We're always working to tight time frames because we're working on tenders. We're serving all of the ISG business units, including fit out, construction and international. We provide storyboarding assistance, and we manage outsourcing where we can't do it internally. The bit I love most is seeing a really polished, engaging final output and impressing internal stakeholders and clients.
That's great. Thank you, Simon. So you'll see we've got quite a diverse range of jobs that we cover, and this is just a tiny part of what construction is overall. What I'd like to do now is we'll go back to our panellists and ask them about their career journey so far, and how they got involved with ISG and some of the challenges that construction gives them. So if I can come over back to you then, Sharnie, to talk about how you got involved in your journey so far.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. A bit of an unusual path. So I originally had plans to pursue a career in HR, studied law and graduated as a paralegal. Alongside my degree, I worked with a tier 1 contractor within their HR department and soon found that this wasn't what I really expected. The company were great. They recognised my passion and skills for reading, writing and researching, offered me a role as a framework coordinator. I led a £1 billion sector framework, and part of this role got me involved in the rebid opportunities. This was really exciting. It's a high pressure environment, but it was a real adrenaline rush, especially when we won. So this prompted a transition into proposals, developing a career as a bid coordinator, then onto bid writer, now senior bid writer. I'm thankful for the support I've had from companies and been inspired by many individuals throughout my journey, and now I'm excited to share that with the next generation. The role is very diverse, and for somebody that loves reading and writing, it's perfect because you do it on a daily basis.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Sharnie. Katie, can we talk about your background and how did you get into construction? If I just get you to unmute, Casey.
Sorry about that. If I'm honest, I didn't really know much about construction. I've got family members in construction, but more on-site trade side, and I had no idea about the management side of it. So yeah, when I was in sixth form, I quickly realised that I didn't want to go to full-time university. If I'm honest, I was fed up of revising all day, coming home and studying, doing the same, and I just didn't want to do that for another 4 years. I just wanted to hurry up and get into work. So I'd heard about degree apprenticeships, so I literally just started researching them, just seeing what that was about and what opportunities there were in any industry really. I saw there were so many, and the ones that really struck my interest were construction management and quantity surveying. So I'd done a bit of research. I was talking to family and friends and see if anyone they knew, especially on my side, if they knew any quantity surveyors and not just builders and plumbers. I had a friend and a family member that both knew someone that worked in quantity surveying. So as you can imagine, I quickly used that to my advantage and asked as many questions as possible, and realised that I think that I would enjoy it. A big thing they said to me was that it was on site and in the office role. So I thought I would enjoy that much more than being on site all day, because I'm good at numbers and computer work anyway. So I thought I'd be much better suited to that. Cut a long story short, and like the recruitment process, started working for ISG and I've been here 3 years now. My favourite part of the scheme would be the rotations, probably. As mentioned earlier, I'm able to see all the different departments, and knowing that I've got opportunities to learn elsewhere rather than just the job role that I applied in. So yeah, the hardest part would probably be having to pack up, like know what I'm doing, do that for a couple of months, pack up and then start from square one again. But that's part of the excitement. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much, Katie.
No
If I
worries.
could pass over to you, Magda, for your insight of how you got involved in construction.
Thank you, Jane. So 5 years ago, this time 5 years ago, I had no idea who ISG were. I used to live up north, trying to finish my master's degree in civil engineering. And on my visit to London, I got over the King's Cross and I saw a big ISG banner. So I was thinking, why not? I'll look them up, I'll see what they do. And I applied for a graduate role. So I knew that ISG are a construction company at that stage, and I didn't necessarily want to go into engineering in terms of design and 9-to-5 job in the office with computers, spreadsheets, and other programs. I really wanted to be on site, and after graduate application, so I applied online. Then ISG were very kind and asked me to, instead of coming down for an interview, we could do a telephone interview. That went quite well. I made a few people laugh, so I think that's what got me the job. Then I came down for the whole day assessment day, which was quite intense. But on the day, I actually found out that I would be offered the job, which was quite, I didn't expect it, and I was very happy. That was actually one of the first companies I applied for a job with. So that was March time. In September 2017, I started on my first rotation in the O2 arena and started working on rotations. So something that Katie mentioned about before. The best thing about both graduate scheme and apprenticeship scheme in ISG is that you can see the project pretty much from the beginning, from work winning stage or pre-construction stage until the completion. And also what that helps you with is you get to understand different roles on the project as well. So right now, working as a construction manager, I understand where the quantity surveyors, for example, come from. So if construction manager is asking for a lot, then quantity surveyor not necessarily wants to do it, or you know, they are trying to find a solution together. I can see it from a different perspective, which is quite useful. And that probably was the best thing on the job as well. And the fact that you get to meet a lot of people, and then when you go to a new project, you realize, oh, actually, I know this person, I've worked with this person before. Or if you organize something on site, you can always reach out to those people because you already know them. So within a couple of first years in ISG, you get to meet a lot of people, which is probably the best thing. Yeah, so in 2019, I finished my graduate scheme. I was promoted to an assistant construction manager after completing 4 rotations, plus additional sustainability rotation that was offered right at the beginning, and I accepted it, said yes, why not? And just recently in April 2021, I was promoted to a construction manager role following a couple of difficult months with COVID obviously kicking in, but it was a very challenging and good time for me. Thank you, Jane.
That's great. Thank you, Magda, for that. Can I come to you, Tim, and how did you get involved in construction?
I was never really the academic at school. So growing up in Suffolk, the kind of standard route was to go down the route of an apprenticeship and go and get a trade. I think from a family background, that was what a lot of family members had done in the past. So I sort of followed suit with that, really. So I did my apprenticeship in Suffolk on a bench where I learned to do carpentry and joinery, and did love it. Really enjoyed it. Loved the social side of working with a group of individuals under one roof, and the fun side of that. But also really enjoyed the type of work that we was doing at the time. And working for TMJ, we got to work on some amazing landmark projects, on behalf of ISG and others. That got me thinking that there's a bit more to this. I'd like to see what goes on once I've made something. So I was very fortunate to be given an opportunity within the business to work in lots of different roles. So I got to spend time in design, technician and design management, a bit of time in surveying, quantity surveying and estimating, a little bit of a time in accounts, and then some time out on site. And I hadn't really spent that much time or really been to London much growing up. So to be able to come down to London and work on a project like the Olympics, for example, for me really sort of opened my eyes as to what more there is to the industry and what perhaps other opportunities are out there. And I think it's there where I really found my feet and could then start to say, actually, I enjoy this. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So yeah, followed the site path, carried on then doing more carpentry install. I then progressed into site management, where I'd be responsible more for managing teams of site ops to install the joinery that was coming to site. Again, working closely with the likes of ISG to make sure we're doing that in line with their expectations when it needs to be done, all that sort of thing. I then moved again into project management, so stepped up where I would then manage more teams of site managers rather than just be involved in one project. I had multiples. At the same time, I was given the opportunity to then go and do a degree part-time, which is the best and the worst thing I've ever done in my life. The best thing after I'd done a degree, probably the worst thing at the time. But it gave me the opportunity to do 1 day a week at a local university, obtain my qualification without the student loans and the debts and having to move away, but also getting that on the job experience, which I think was was a huge benefit to me. And then 2 years ago was promoted to the board of directors within the business, where I now control a division and oversee all the site operations. So yeah, sort of a route from, I guess, using my hands to not using my hands so much anymore, but still enjoying everything that I do.
That's great. Thank you very much, Tim, for that. And if I can come to you, Simon, because your role definitely isn't the sort of role that you would necessarily automatically link to construction. So it would be great to know how you got involved with construction.
Absolutely, thank you, Jane. A bit like Sharnie, I'd say my journey is a little unusual. I went to university to study mathematics. My original plan was to become a maths teacher, and I didn't know anything about construction at the time. But in my final year, I realised I had a really strong interest in shapes and visual mathematics, and I actually started off working with AutoCAD, doing technical drawings in the engineering sector. A job I'd say I pretty much found by accident, but I had a really strong interest in it, and also really used to enjoy seeing things like grand designs. Found that really inspiring, and I thought I'd love to do that one day. So because of that, while I was doing AutoCAD 2D drawings, I started to dabble in 3D in the background. And then after a few years, started to introduce it into the day-to-day, taking the 2D CAD work and then just essentially building 3D content off the back of that. My first animation was a recycling centre with moving vehicles, walking people, and even had a little animated skip change in there. I didn't have any post-processing software, So I had to do it in one go. I had to render it in one go, and it took 7 days to render. And if there's any mistakes, I took another 7 days to render. So quickly learned I needed to start using post-processing software if I wanted to do this in future. And I knew absolutely it was what I wanted to do. So instead of doing it as part of a CAD role, in 2010, I moved to London from the north to focus 100% on visualization. Started off doing claims animation, which then sort of links into doing bid animation. And then ISG gave me the opportunity to join them in 2012, and I jumped at the chance. I was the first visualizer that ISG have ever hired. Since then, we supported many key projects, contributing to ISG's continued success. We've grown a team. I mentioned earlier, we've got 5 visualizers now. And my career's grown with that as well. And the stakeholder base has also increased, which means I can provide ISG more support and win more work. And in recent years, really exciting, we've introduced real-time technology. We're using that to greatly speed up the rendering and open up new possibilities like virtual walkthroughs, where we go along to meet a client with a game controller and walk them through a photorealistic representation of their space. And virtual reality, same thing, but we put a headset on the client, and then they can jump themselves around the space. They can even cycle different finishes and options. And you know, I'm proud and really appreciative to work for ISG, because it gives me a chance to use and learn this technology.
That's great. Thank you, Simon. I think you can just see from that little snapshot of the panelists I've got here, there isn't one route that gets you into construction. There are lots of different routes that you can take that will, you know, lead you in there. And once you're in, that it's not a static role. I think that was, you know, summed up by what Katie said from the rotations, that there are opportunities, and that's what construction really is about. You know, it is this massive place for opportunities for people. But the next question I'd like to ask about is about those routes, and you know, is it the university route, is it the apprentice route, and just to get some feedback on how our panelists sort of found that. So Katie, if I could just come to you to talk through that apprenticeship route and what benefits you perhaps think they've brought you from taking that route. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Jane. So as I mentioned earlier, I quickly realised that I wanted to do a degree apprenticeship rather than going to university, because I just realised that I just wanted to hurry up and get to work, and I just thought I'd excel and be much happier doing that than spending the next 4 years at university full time. A lot of my friends and family are surprised. I've always been quite academic, and they thought that I would go to university. But since then, I've realised it was definitely the right decision for me, because in addition to the work experience and the degree that you also get paid to do an apprenticeship as well. So you're getting paid to learn on the job and to do university work. So as Tim said earlier, for the case for him, we don't come out of our apprenticeships with any student loans or debt, so we can just focus on our career right from the get-go without any other worries. My advice to anyone thinking about coming into construction would be to take up any opportunity to do a degree apprenticeship over university, in my opinion. Don't worry or overthink that you're going into the wrong discipline, because as we've spoken already, there's so many opportunities to transition into a different job role if you don't like the one that you're in. And especially at ISG, they've made it very clear to me since the beginning that there's different programs you can go on to if you want to. So yeah, if you are interested in construction, take a leap, go for it, and without a doubt you'll get so much more experience working in a construction business rather than full-time university, and you'll meet so many people that will enable you to enhance your career as well. So definitely recommend it.
That's great. Katie, and that's really interesting to hear about that apprenticeship route into the industry. Would be interesting to hear your graduate route in Magda. And as we say, there's no right or wrong route for anyone. It's absolutely about what suits you best. So it'd be great to hear your experiences, Magda.
Thank you, Jane. Oops, unmute. Yes. So when I came to the UK 9 years ago in 2012, I just wanted to go on with my degree. Well, improve my English first, so I took a gap year. Then I applied for a university. I got in. To be honest with you, I had no idea that something like apprenticeship schemes existed. So when I think about it now, and I can see my colleagues who started same year as me, graduate scheme, they were doing apprenticeship scheme, and they progressed into assistant roles, and they don't have any debts. That's probably the biggest bonus, that you'd have no money deducted every month for student finance. I'm thinking if I could go back in time, I would probably have decided to go for an apprenticeship route. Although don't think that it needs, like Jane said, it's bad or good for you. It's you have to tailor it to yourself. So thinking about it, actually, I've made quite a few friends for life, probably at university. So just thinking about it, I probably wouldn't want to change it. Actually, one of those friends I'll be marrying next year, so maybe it wasn't a bad decision to go to uni. Also, you are quite independent from day one. So I'm not saying that apprentices are not, but you can still, you know, you can still live with your parents. It was slightly different for me because I moved here on my own. I only had my sister here, so I was independent straight from the beginning. But it's the social side of it as well at the university, and also you can act less like an adult, because although you can get a part-time job, sometimes you might decide not to go to a lecture. I'm not saying that you should be doing it, but it gives you more flexibility, definitely, university. Once you finish the university and you get a degree, then you can straight away get an assistant role in some companies. I applied for a graduate scheme because I didn't have any industry experience, unfortunately. And when I arrived to assessment center in the ISG head office, I was a little bit scared that I'm not gonna get offered the job. The reason why is you can get a sandwich year at university, which is probably a really good idea. So you come out of university after 2 years, for a year, you get a job in the industry, and you go back to complete your studies. It's a massive plus when you apply for a job. But thinking about it, I didn't have any experience, and it's more of what sort of a person you are, if the company like you, because in terms of skills you can always learn them. You can't really change a person. So if you are into construction, if you want to apply for jobs, don't think that a lack of experience will stop you from getting a job. Yeah, I think both routes are great. You really need to decide which one is for you. And yeah, that's pretty much all. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Magda. And I think, you know, as you know, we said at the beginning of this, you know, there are the various routes. It's about trying to find out what those routes are, having a look at them, and then having a look at what suits you best. And it might be that you know, you've got a degree in a different subject, and it's a change of career that you're looking for. And again, then joining a graduate type route is a great way, as Magda said, to get that experience that you need to be able to move on in that field. If we look at the next sort of question set that I've got there, I think you'll pick up that everybody has raised today, it's about people. a lot of what construction is about. It's about people, and it's about how people work together. So I'd be really interested to talk to you, Tim, about that collaborative role, about how you as a supply chain feel part of the ISG team, and what we're going to, you know, deliver, and what your approach is to working with us. Thanks, Tim.
I think you know, when we deliver a project and we work together with ISG, we have to remember it's made up of there's so many different people involved, you know, from professional route, but also different trades. You tend to have lots of different companies involved making different things, you know, and it's ultimately all of our responsibilities to pull that together. You know, working with ISG and to make sure that, you know, the sequence of all of those tasks are in the right order, but also being done in a way that's effective for each trade to be able to do what they need to do for the next person, to ensure that, you know, we're going to build that as a success. And, you know, the absolute key to that is collaboration and coordination with each other. It's also, you know, those two words, for me, it's another, you know, defining part of my role that I really enjoy, because it unlocks great relationships. It unlocks the social side, but it's also that that understanding of right from the day that we start a project and we start designing it, right the way through to, you know, as a joinery business going into manufacture and then bringing it to site and installing it, that we know that we've spoke to everybody else involved, including ISG and the other trades, to make sure that all of their requirements, you know, are accommodated. If we take something simple like a kitchen, for example, we need to be talking to the guys that are going to be building the openings for the kitchen to make sure that's the right size at the drawing stage. We need to make sure that the heights are correct, so the ceilings are going at the right height. So we've got the ceiling guys on board and we're all having these conversations. We need to be making sure that we're drawing all of the service requirements to things like the taps and the dishwashers and the fridges, that they're in the right place on the drawings. And then when that joinery comes to site, that we know that those guys, you know, the people that are doing the electrics and the plumbing, that they've put all of that equipment in the right place for the joinery to go into the right place. So without the true collaboration and coordination of everybody together, you know, we just wouldn't be able to have that clear sequence of events and run some of the pressures of the programs that we do. And I guess the real word to really define it all is partnerships. And I think once partnerships are unlocked on projects, you know, it really makes that journey really enjoyable, and you see fantastic outcomes in terms of successful projects being delivered.
That's great. Thank you, Tim, for that. As you say, you know, it's about bringing all those people together with a common goal, isn't it? And then we've got, you know, a fantastic, you know, building or whatever at the end of it, which is there for a long time. And there's not many jobs that you can say that you can walk down the street in London and say, you know, I was part of that. And I think that sense of pride is great as well, isn't it, that construction gives you. I think if we're, you know, looking forward, and if we look at some of the work that Simon's been talking about, the industry is changing. Yes, it is still, you know, trade space. We still need people to build things, but there's a whole raft of other things that are now being incorporated into construction throughout the process and throughout the various stages. So it would be interesting to speak to each of you about how you've seen those changes in the short times that you've been involved, whether it's technology, whether it's diversity and inclusion, whether it's skills or sustainability. So maybe I could start with you, Simon, on that question.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, I think as you said, there's technology is really playing a big part in construction, and it's evolving very, very quickly. Social media, real-time technology. You know, we're using drones on site to survey things. I've already mentioned we're using virtual reality. Real-time technology has really moved very, very quickly. So there are opportunities for example, game developers in ISG, which we would never have seen 5-10 years ago. So it's really exciting, and we're seeing new software come out that we can use, and new hardware. For example, we're using something called Open Space, where we survey the site using the 360 camera that you wear on your head, and you go around the site, and it sort of builds a survey, a bit like Google Street View that people can view online. So there's lots of stuff, and it honestly, it moves so quickly that I think, you know, it's very exciting to think about what construction might look in 10 years' time. The honest answer is I've got no idea, but you know, maybe things like augmented reality could play a part. You know, maybe we've got some Google glasses or something, and we're going around and we can see everything through these glasses. But yeah, certainly, you know, the pace it's changed, very, very exciting.
Great, thank you, Simon, for that. Tim, how do you think, you know, you as a supply chain member have seen those changes, and where do you think that's going to go for your sector?
I think the key to a lot of it will be, like Simon said, is new technologies, and bringing that into the site operations to be able to be more effective and efficient, you know, and things like managing and understanding data, where we can improve by seeing, you know, directly and automatically what is going on. There's certainly some exciting things that are going on, you know, in terms of how drawings are now produced, how we all, we go back to what I was talking about, coordination, how trades will all come together and actually submit all of those drawings into a larger 3D model. And that gives, you know, us the opportunity to perhaps use things like your VR sets and things like that to see, you know, the actual completed areas as they should be, as a 3D visual. And also, you know, these are great tools to be able to hand back to the client at the end of the job, for their operational procedures, you know, and their manuals, so they know how to operate the building. I think there's, you know, and where this could go, like someone said, is quite exciting for us. We've really seen a huge change in how things are produced, manufactured. I remember when I was on the bench, how we used to, you know, just make a simple unit, for example, to how it's done now. You know, it's completely different, and that's with a combination of software and new machinery. Agendas to pre-manufacture as much as we can off-site is growing that as well, and that all falls into, you know, the sustainability agenda as well, you know, reducing waste. There's softwares that we use now so that when we cut certain components on a machine, it automatically nests the most economical and best way to do it, so that we're reducing as much waste as possible, which also then means the components are going to site the correct sizes, so we don't need to be cutting things on site. And I think, yeah, it's going to be more about where that tech side can perhaps lead us, and what other efficiencies it may be able to unlock.
That's great, thank you. Thanks for that, Tim. If I could come to you, Magda, and have your views on how you've seen the changes and where you think we're going.
So Tim mentioned about sustainability. I think it's becoming more popular now, which is obviously a good thing. And at some point, or maybe is right now as well, as we have health and safety standards, we have our own sustainability standards as well. And the requirements that we should be meeting. So that's obviously quite important. In terms of technology, I just wanted to mention about the time when I was actually working on my previous project and we were delivering a school. We had a meeting for parents of the kids who will be attending the school once it's opened, and teachers as well. So obviously for people who are not working in the construction, simple drawing, 2D drawing, you know, might not be good enough for them to visualize what a classroom is going to look like, what a play area is going to look like. So our marketing team actually provided us with sort of simple VR sets that actually worked with the model. So once you put the VR set on your in front of your eyes or on your head, you could actually walk through a building. So that was quite a good idea, also quite interactive, and all involved could actually see what the school is going to look like. So that will definitely become more popular on construction projects, which is definitely quite useful. So this is the only way forward.
Great, thank you. And if I could lastly come to you, Sharnie, with this question.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, so the industry's changed significantly in the last 10 years. Firstly, proposals become a core function of the business. The late nights of hole punching and ring binding are changed by portals, so technology is definitely changing the industry. In my role, the core topics we're asked to write about has changed focus. So social value and sustainability have become key drivers for our clients, particularly carbon reduction. So there's lots of learning and research to be done on those. For me, I think the most exciting change so far has been the market and the variety of projects we've seen. So 10 years ago, I was a lot of education focused and education drive. And at the moment, we're now pushing into a lot of MOJ work and increasing prison placements. So, you know, the industry is changing constantly to meet the needs of society, which makes the role very diverse and very exciting. And I'm looking forward to how technology can support that in the future, especially with the VR headsets and how that can enhance tenders and maybe reduce the writing and put a few more visuals in there, because it makes the building come to life.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sharnie, for that. I've got time now just for one last question for each of you, really, before we drop into the Q&A session. And really, I'd like you to try and sum up in 3 words. Not that easy to get it into 3 words, I know. What you would say best represents your time in the industry so far. So if I could, I'll hand back to you, Sharnie, to start with that question. So 3 words that sums up.
I think flexible, inspiring, and rewarding.
That's brilliant, thank you. And Katie, if I could come to you.
Hi Jane, I would say exciting, interesting, but very overwhelming.
That's lovely. Magda?
Sorry, challenging, exciting and rewarding as well, like Sharnie said.
Great. Over to you, Tim.
I would have said diverse, demanding, but again, rewarding, very rewarding.
And last but not least, Simon, over to you.
I wrote the exact same answer as Magda. Exciting, challenging, and rewarding.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. So thank you, panelists, for your insights into the industry. I think you can see from the question sets that we've had and the answers that it is a fantastic industry. It is really rewarding. That's been picked up by everyone here today. You make great friends from it, and it is diverse and ever changing, I think, from that as well. So with that, I think we've got a couple of questions, so I'll pick up on the questions now and post those over to a couple of you in the panel as we go through. So I think the first question that we've got here is, what advice would you give somebody that was thinking about starting a career in construction? And maybe if we start with Katie on that, who is at the beginning of that journey. So what would you say, Katie, to anyone that's thinking about starting a career in construction?
If I'm honest, Jane, as I said earlier, there's so many opportunities in construction, on-site side, management side. So I think if you're interested in it, don't be afraid you're going to be picking the wrong thing or going into something that you're not too sure on. Just get into the industry first, make all your contacts, and then it will just flow from there and you'll end up following the right path. Don't hold back and go into an industry where you might not be as happy just because you're scared and overwhelmed with all of the opportunities. It was definitely worth taking any opportunity you can, whether that's university, apprenticeship schemes, grad schemes, placement years, or even coming in from another industry. It's 100% worth it.
Great, thank you for that. And Tim, if I could just pose that to you, and perhaps that wider sort of supply chain side of that career question.
I think I'd say is first of all, go for it. But also you know, try and find out what you're good at and attack that route. You know, the construction industry is so diverse. There's so many different opportunities and roles within that. There can be something that could suit really well. And even if there isn't, even if it's not your entry point, you know, like we've discussed on this call, you know, there's opportunities there to sidestep. And then if you enjoy what you do and you work really hard at it, you know, it can be a fantastic, rewarding career for life, really.
Great, thank you. I think for me, that's the other thing about construction is, and you can see that from everyone that's here today, is what you start off in isn't necessarily what you're going to finish up in, because there is that massive broad range of things that you'll be able to move around with. So and I think, you know, our panelists have picked that up. You know, don't be afraid that you've going into something and you're going to be doing that for life. I think, you know, those traditional sort of job for life has changed massively, and now it's a life for job, really. You know, you're going to do lots of different things, and I think construction is great at enabler to allow you to do that. Another question here in the chat bar about what other opportunities and experience does the industry open up for people that work in it. So it would be interesting, Simon, to pick up on this, and maybe some of the broader things that ISG and working within ISG offers, as well as your day job, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think. Thank you, Jen. I think I already mentioned the technology side, where you can experience virtual reality and actually see it put to practical use. And I think in terms of opportunities, I really liked hearing Sharnie's story about how she started in one job and then moved into another. And I certainly think, from my perspective, I've witnessed and experienced myself, not just applying for a job and getting that job, also being able to shape my own future. And I think that's fantastic. And I think we have to be like that, because I think the pace that technology is changing. I think a company that can respond to an idea that's put on the table and then adopt that, I think you can almost get into the industry, as Katie said, and then just sort of find what works for you and shape your own future.
Thank you, Simon. Magda, what about perhaps some of the wider things that ISG have had to offer around volunteering and some of the other bits? Maybe you could just pick up on those, as well as the construction bit. It opens all sorts of doors, doesn't it?
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Jane. So in terms of volunteering, we do like to do it. And every year we get 2 days that we can take off from either office or if we are site-based, and we can spend those 2 days on purely volunteering and giving back to the community. In terms of training as well, I would like to mention that once you identify your skill gaps, so obviously if you are in training, if you are a graduate or apprentice, you go through loads of training. So obviously no one is expecting you to know a lot from day one, which you won't know. Even if you are straight off the university, you not necessarily use what you've learned at university. You might be using something else, or you might find out that 2 years down the line you will actually use those skills. So training, quite a lot of it. Every year we review the skill gaps as well, and then once this is identified, we book ourselves on courses. Not long ago, last Friday, I I wanted to start preparing programs, short-term programs for the project for myself, just to know where we are exactly. I didn't know how to use the program necessarily, and I was booked on a course. So the company is pretty good with it as well.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There is, you know, we're always learning, aren't we? And as Simon said, you know, it's fast moving, so we need to be always learning to keep up with all of the different things that are happening out there. Tim, if I could just come over to you with that question about what other opportunities and experiences do you think that construction gives you?
I mean, when I did my apprenticeship, I look back now, there's roles in the industry today that simply back then just didn't exist. And they are as a result of how the industry has come forward and embraced technology. And that's obviously unlocked, you know, lots of new exciting opportunities and roles. So I think there's a big opportunity here as things do develop and we move more into a digital modern age, to actually shape a bit of how the industry is going to develop itself. Technology, code writing, software development, all that kind of thing. That's going to be a big part of this that we're only now just scratching the surface of. So I think that's a big one. And for me, the other one is the social side and just being able to be involved in, you know, some of the projects and the buildings that we have. You know, it's really, really cool to take your friends to London and stand on a rooftop bar on a Saturday evening and point at all the jobs that you've done. They think it's sad, but I'm quite proud of it.
That's great. Thank you, Tim. The next question that we've got here is, I'm interested in sustainability and giving back. Is there a big drive for that in the industry? I think if I start with Sharnie with that, because I think this is something you can certainly see from the bid world, isn't it? Through sustainability and social value. So maybe you could just highlight where you think that's going. Thanks, Sharnie.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. Yeah, so sustainability and social value are now core topics that we're asked to write about on a daily basis. And I think the industry's changed in that we now have dedicated social value and sustainability teams. They get involved right at the bid stage to help clients shape their vision, but then they also help deliver that on site with the project teams. So having that kind of core function really has helped the industry progress, especially with the carbon targets that are coming in, carbon reduction. And I think also aside from the day-to-day job of sustainability, that we do a lot of projects internally. So I know the team recently went down to down south and did a beach theme. And, you know, we really do help try and drive sustainability measures outside of our projects to help the environment. So there's definitely a core focus and lots of different things to get involved in on a project and a non-project side.
Thank you, Sharnie. Maybe Magda, you'd like to pick up on that. Obviously, you did the extra module in sustainability, and as you said, you know, with our policies and things within ISG, it's a really important part of what we do. So it'd be great if you could just pick up on that question.
Yes, so there is a massive push on sustainability and social value. Every single project, every month, we have to report back to sustainability in terms of delivery mileage. Then we have to review the data, maybe come up with some ideas how we could reduce it. For example, a generator use in London is obviously no-go unless we have no other choice. So we are trying to look into alternatives like green diesel. So just recently on my project where we have no power due to the substation being down, we've gone for a green diesel, which actually turned out to be a vegetable oil on the delivery notes, which is really good to see that the industry is actually changing and we are not going backwards, we are going forward. So battery operated, lights, for example, instead of diesel again. And we get quite a lot of help from sustainability teams. So if we are unsure, we always bring them up, ask them what would be a best fit for us. This is what we require. Could you help? And again, going back to social side of it, social value, even though certain councils will impose requirements on us. So, for example, they will ask for a certain amount of apprentices being on the job, or local workers, which is not very easy if you are based in London, because not a lot of people actually live in central London. So we have to offset it in some way. And it's not just about constructing the building, it's about giving back to the community that's around us. Maybe there are some local charities that we could do something for them, maybe raise some money, organize an event for them.
Thank you for that, Magda, and I think that's a great place to finish the discussion, because it brings us back round to what was the title of this session, and that it's more than a building. And I think, you know, you'll certainly see that from the discussion that we've had today. You know, the end product is that fantastic building that we can all be proud of. But in order to get that building, it's about that collaborative team, and the fact that every single person has a real vital role to play in delivering that project. And without everyone pulling together to deliver it, then you know, we wouldn't end up with the end product that we've got. So that draws a close to the session today. Can I give my personal thanks to all of the panellists for giving your time and insights into how you got into the industry. So much appreciated. So thank you very much for that. And if I could just point, if anybody is interested in a role with ISG, either at an apprentice, a graduate, or a placement, if you'd like to go to our website, isglimited.com, and under the careers section, under job vacancies, our process is open, ready for the September 22 intake. So that's open now for applications. It closes in December, but if you're keen, I would say get your application in straight away for that. And I think everybody here has summed that up as that, you know, don't think about it too much, just go for it. Because there are so many opportunities out there for you to take in construction. So that draws a close to the session. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, and I do hope that you've managed to take something away from the session this morning. So thank you.